This podcast was produced by OAR FM Dunedin with support from New Zealand On the Air.
And welcome to the OI podcast, the Otago Institute podcast, conversations with experts from the worlds of arts, sciences and Mātauranga Māori, brought to you by the Otago Institute for the Otago branch of the Royal Society for Arts and Sciences. Kia ora, no mai, haere mai. I'm Dr Barb, a quantitative ecologist with a background in modelling, climate change, biodiversity, conservation, prioritisation and SciComm, and a PhD in botany from Ōtākau Whakaihu Waka, the University of Otago. We hope you enjoy our mix of conversations with experts in a wide range of subjects as wide a range of subjects as we can find from the worlds of arts, sciences and Mātauranga Māori. Thank you for joining us. And today we have in the studio, and it is really great to have you here today. Thank you very much for coming along. It is Anna Nilson, the Group Manager, Property Services for the DCC. Welcome, Anna.
Kia ora.
And I'm just going to... I'm just going to kind of start off with what is Property Services?
Property Services is the department at Dunedin City Council which looks after the majority of DCC's owned buildings. So we look after buildings, cars and parking meters.
And I guess public toilets.
Public toilets, railway stations, museums, art galleries and everything in between.
All those big buildings. And yeah, it's quite a big portfolio. How many people have you got working there under you? I mean,
we have 45 people in our team.
Right. So, I mean, that sounds like a lot of people, but that's a huge portfolio to be looking after, 45 people. And I guess some of it is contracting other people to do things as well. You're not cleaning the toilets yourselves, are you?
No, that's right. We manage the maintenance of all of those properties and we manage the capital delivery, so the building of new things.
Right.
And if you think about the size of DCC's property holdings, we're sitting at about $850 million worth of property.
$850 million.
Give or take.
Give or take in property. So that's the value of all the properties that you hold. And I guess some of those are just extremely difficult to value as well. I mean, how does one value the railway station and everything that brings to Dunedin and, you know, the iconicness of it as well as the kind of, it's a one-of-a-kind thing.
Absolutely. We've got some really unique properties like a railway station and an art gallery. And then we also have some pretty standard properties like 950 community houses.
Oh, right. Oh, so you are in charge of the community houses as well?
Yes.
Wow. Oh, and there's how many of them? 950?
No, I don't know why I said 940. 940,
sorry. I'm going to get those numbers right. Wow, 940. That is a lot of houses.
It is.
And do you know how, I know this is not your scope, but do you know how that compares to the number of Kaianga Ora houses in Dunedin?
Kaianga Ora are bigger than us, but we are the second largest community housing provider.
Wow.
Housing provider generally.
I did not realise that there was that much community housing in Dunedin.
We're really lucky as a city to have that provision, and it's pretty well supported by our residents.
Yeah. And, I mean, I guess that also has kind of a cost in the maintenance and building of them, but some of those property services places are actually bringing in some money as well.
That's right. The portfolio itself is pretty varied. So we have community property, which is used by and run by community, like community halls.
Right.
Community event centres. We've also got an investment portfolio. So Dunedin City owns a portfolio of around 110 million of investment property.
Wow.
So that brings in what we call rates alternative revenue. So the profit from that portfolio offsets your rates contribution.
Oh, wow. And of course, I guess that allows you to strategically buy things as well. So things like Forbury Park, is that part of your remit where I think the council's kind of bought that on the assumption that something needs to be done sooner rather than later about, you know, the storm surge, climate change, flooding of South Dunedin, and whatever that is, whichever of those options from the Future Dunedin's consultation with the science and engineering and the community, whichever one of those or mixture of those is eventually decided on and goes ahead, there will need to be some some land that's either for more waterways, more wetlands, or kind of a changing swap over.
I guess that's really the area of Jonathan Rowe. I'm not sure if you've met with Jonathan.
I have.
Before.
We had two. I was just going to thank you for that. I was just going to have a shout out there. We have two amazing episodes back to back with Jonathan Rowe and with Simon Cox, who was the lead on the geology, hydrogeology, all of that side of that.
And they do phenomenally interesting work.
Yeah.
And I guess it's up to them to work with the community and to take direction on council on the strategic future of the property. The day-to-day mowing of the lawns, that sits with my team.
That sits with your team, right? Oh, that's really good, and it's really interesting to see. I'm going to get. I should go reel myself all back. Sorry, folks out there listening, and also to you, because I just get carried away because I've got all this, and I'm like, oh my gosh, that's so interesting as well, and then I end up going down a rabbit hole. So, of course, today I have specifically asked Anna along, folks, because there was been so much out on social media, pinging backwards and forwards about a couple of big things that sit within your kind of portfolio. So what I thought was just a short introduction, who you are and what you do, property services manager, kind of you're there, and then you go up to the infrastructure main team, which I guess encompasses like Three Waters, all of the drainage and the roading and things as well. And then that is Dave Ward, who actually came on and did an amazing talk with us last year, straight after Jonathan Rowe and Simon Cox came on, talking about local water done well. And that was really interesting because that was talking about the differences between those three waters and the infrastructure between stormwater, drinking water and wastewater, and they're kind of the big three that everyone is talking about. And regardless of which way you swing, politically or anything, we need to make sure that water is sorted over the generations.
100%.
So we did a really great infrastructure kind of discussion with him on that. And then, of course, after that, it's Sandy Graham, CEO, is your... I guess she's your main boss.
Absolutely.
And then, of course, she's taking all her directions from the council. So they sit at the top. And I'm just going to think through the structure of how this works. So we elect the councillors. The councillors then kind of put together the 9-year plan, or they kind of vote on what their options are. That goes out to consultation and comes back in, and they decide then. And then that gets sent to Sandy, and then I guess Sandy sends it to you, and then you're there to implement it.
It's council staff's job to implement the will of council. So council are there to represent our community and all of our community's interests and needs, and to provide direction to us on where our priorities are. Right.
And so that's kind of that thing. And there's been a lot of talk about, and the folks out there, this is going to be the main crux of this interview, it's all about it's not all about, because we're going to talk about a few other things at the end if we have time. But the first thing I'd like to talk about is the changing places bathrooms, loos facilities. And I have to admit that we did do an interview with Alison Breeze from a sort of history of public toilets in Dunedin point of view last year, which was super interesting. And that was about the time that the 9-year plan consultations were being asked for, and people were, like, the council was out there, like, advocating for people to please submit on this 9-year plan, tell us what's important, tell us what's not important, please submit on it. And one of the things that was in that 9-year plan as an option was this changing rooms, changing places facility. And I'm on record, because I just replayed the first part of that interview back to myself before this interview, and to my shame, I had no clue what the changing places facility actually was, or why it was important, or what was happening with it. And it sounds like it might be somewhere where people can go to get changed, like at the beach, like a swimming kind of facility, or maybe there's showers there, or it's changing places facility. Like, to me, I'm not sure that immediately said to me, well, I know because I re-listened to myself babble about it on the radio. Anyway, what I was thinking was right off the top, there's been some chatter on Facebook, and I'm going to read what people have said about it. This is an incredible resource for the disabled community that I am pleased my rates contribute to. Another person said, hoists and other equipment don't come cheap. Another person said, this is great news for the disabled and their carers. Someone else, whilst I acknowledge this is a huge expense, it is an essential addition to our toileting facilities and will open up access to town for many families. So there's a whole lot to unpack there. I'm going to throw it over to you, Anna, to first off give us a description of what actually the Changing Places facility is.
So a Changing Places facility, there's quite a few of them throughout New Zealand now. They're really designed to meet the needs of people with complex disabilities. So more than an accessible toilet, more than your standard toilet. What they do is they enable people that have got quite often full-grown adults with complex needs. They can access the facility. It has a toilet stool, obviously, but that toilet stool is adjustable. It can go up and down.
Right.
So,
I mean, that's quite tricky for a toilet, isn't it?
It is quite tricky for a toilet to go up and down. It's got a changing table that's suitable for an adult to be changed on. It has showering facilities. So if somebody has an accident and they're a full-grown adult, they can have dignity and be cleaned in a way that's possible for a carer to undertake. There's a hoist in the facility so that an adult can be moved around the Changing Places facility easily.
Right. And with like basically one carer, I'm imagining, so that you don't, because often if you're out in town, you're there and you're there with your carer, you're shopping or doing whatever.
You have a carer, you might have a motorised wheelchair that doesn't necessarily fit in every accessible toilet. You might, for example, one of the applicants, I heard the story just yesterday, who got a key to the Changing Places toilet. He's a gentleman who uses a wheelchair. He has a young child. He needs to change the child's nappies. There is nowhere for him to go in a wheelchair that has the space and facility for him to change his child.
Oh, that's interesting. See, that's like an indirect roll-on effect, isn't it? So that's actually,
So now they can access a facility where they can enter and go about their life and care for their child, which they couldn't otherwise do.
Yeah, it's interesting. So now there we're talking. So the actual building has got three separate facilities in it. Am I right there? So we're just talking about the main Changing Places bit that's towards Toitu end.
So a Changing Places bathroom is just what I've said, but in our facility that we're building, we've got the Changing Places facility. We'll also then have a standard toilet and we'll have an accessible toilet.
So what is an accessible toilet? How does that differ from the standard toilet and the Changing Places facility?
An accessible toilet is really made for someone with accessibility issues. You can get some wheelchairs through the door, so it's got a wider door. It has grab rails. It has a basin that you can ideally fit a wheelchair underneath. It considers things for accessibility, not just in terms of a wheelchair, but visual access, how you get your toilet paper. Everything is being thought about to make that easier and possible for people to get on with their lives.
Wow. And then the standard toilet is also available for everyone, is that right?
Absolutely.
So the standard toilet and the accessibility toilet next to it, they're both open to the general public.
Yep.
And the Changing Places facility, that's different, isn't it?
That's right. So the Changing Places facility does have restricted access, but you can jump online to the Changing Places Trust website, put your case forward and receive a key for that.
Right. So that's quite a straightforward process. And can you just talk us through why it has restricted access?
Lots of reasons. Unfortunately, one of the big reasons for us is that our toilets get a lot of vandalism.
Right.
It's really costly for the city, and we don't want that type of facility with that level of investment at the risk of vandalism. It's too disruptive to the community and too costly.
And what about visiting people? If there's someone who's visiting that needs that facility, how would they access it? Can they just go to the information centre at DCC? How would they get in?
They would contact Changing Places again.
Right.
So when you're a Changing Places member, you get access to the whole network of Changing Places throughout the whole country. So you can use it everywhere you go.
So someone who's using a similar facility in Auckland or Wellington, for instance, they would already have a swipe card. So then this just allows them basically to travel to Dunedin.
Yeah. And that's, I guess it points to one of the reasons why the location has been supported. It's on State Highway 1.
Right.
If you're driving through Dunedin, you're going straight past it.
Right.
So anybody can use it that's on that southern route.
Right. And I guess, I don't want to advocate too much for cruise ship passengers, but I know that one of the arguments for continuing cruise ship as a, general form of transport is that there's a lot of people with more complex disabilities that cruise ships are basically the only way they feel that they can go on a vacation of that sort. So I guess having that facility there by the train station is actually...
Yeah, I guess the facility, whilst we're really excited about the Changing Places aspect of it, it's doing double duty. We had a couple of loos there before that were the old ex-loos.
Yeah, the sort of portaloo type things, weren't they? Kind of plasticky.
Yeah.
I mean, not portaloos, but kind of halfway between portaloos and...
Yeah, they do the job.
Yeah.
But they were pretty lacklustre.
Right.
So it's ideal for us to replace those, install a bathroom there because the service is already there with the wastewater and normal water.
Right.
We've got tourists that are parking in that area. We've got buses that are coming to that area. We've got a huge amount of traffic, people traffic, that's already there.
Right.
So this will serve the accessibility community, the complex needs community, our tourists, our New Zealand tourists just coming through on State Highway 1, and Dunedinites that are going to Toitu with their children or walking across the bridge from the car park at Thomas Burns in the morning.
Right.
It's a really popular spot.
And, I mean, there's always people milling around in the front taking pictures of the railway station. I heard
100%.
somewhere that it was the most photographed building in New Zealand.
I have heard that a lot.
I don't know if it's true,
I don't know if
but
it's
I have
true
heard it.
But it sounds really good. So.
Yeah, and I can believe it as well, because if you come to Dunedin, that's what you photograph.
Yeah,
I can
iconic.
see that.
And
It is iconic. It is a beautiful building. It actually has public toilets inside it.
It does. So they're open at the moment while the new site's closed down.
Right.
But
they're not always open?
Yeah, they are.
Oh,
they are. Sorry, that sounded wrong.
Oh, sorry.
They are always open. They're just not as easy to access. They're not.
Yeah.
They're not particularly modern.
I mean, they're not particularly modern. They're in an old building. They are like the whole of the building. I just love the railway station. We'll get on to the railway station in a little bit because that also falls under your kind of remit, doesn't it, as property services? So we did want to address the cost because it is eye-watering, $750 million. And there's lots of comments on Facebook, oh, that's so much. Why is it spending so much? Why is the council spending so much on that? Is that not the whole budget? Have they blown the budget? How is this possible? What's wrong with the council? Why can't they ever get their budgets things? Why does everything blow out? And I thought this is the perfect opportunity to have you along because you're in charge of that budget.
Yeah.
So why does it cost so much?
If I can just go back just a wee step to frame it up.
Yeah.
The Changing Places bathroom and its budget has been a directive of council since 2021.
Right, so that is a long time.
There's been a resolution in place for a really long time. There has been funding in place. Before this latest round of annual plan, we had funding in there and we'd actually started looking at a different location for the bathroom, one closer to the central city. When we got through to a concept design and we realised the number of services that were in the ground in the surrounding area and what it would take to create access to that facility that was flat and achievable, the costs really started escalating beyond $1 million. And we stopped at that point and went, hold on, let's revisit this. We need to be able to do this in a more affordable way.
Right, so that location is determined partly by where's most useful for the disability community, for visitors, for tourists, for residents, all of those things, and partly by cost.
It's a balance of all those factors, right?
And I imagine that you've done extensive consultation with people from the community who are likely to use.
Yep, we've consulted with the local community. Also, Jen from Changing Places has been a really useful and knowledgeable advocate to talk to us about what matters to people that are using these types of facilities. So, but to go back to the cost, and look, $750,000, I get it, it's a big number. In real terms, that's a lot of money. And we do need to build a toilet that, first and foremost, is really durable.
Right.
Unfortunately, our loos are the target of vandalism. They're regular vandalism, and your standard toilet at home just doesn't cut the mustard. It's damaged so easily and repeatedly. So we do buy a high spec of durable toilets.
Right, and when you're saying about durable toilets, you're talking about not just the toilets, but the doors and the walls and the windows, the ventilation, the whole thing. And I guess there's no way you can put cameras on them, right? Because it's toilets.
It's not ideal to have cameras on toilets.
Yeah, so I mean, I'm not advocating for that, but it just normally, if you're talking about vandalism and graffiti, you would say, okay, well, let's put some security around it. There is no security around public toilets. That's the kind of
we do everything we can to kind of discourage it with things like lighting, landscaping around the area. What we've found in the past, to give you some examples, is if we put portaloos in, or we've put something smaller, people have backed their vehicle up and pulled the toilet over.
Oh, wow.
In its entirety. So, okay, we'll use the natural environment to try and limit their ability to do that.
So it's in a substantial building, like it's not made of plastic, right? The building itself is going to be...
It's made of concrete.
Concrete, yeah.
Because people...
and steel, I guess.
will drive into it. People will hit it. People will try and take the doors off it. They take the dryers off it. They do things... sometimes ridiculous things, like put an 8-foot log in a toilet.
Oh, wow.
We've had that before. Some quite challenging and sometimes humorous attempts, but it's really costly for the ratepayer. So we invest upfront in a really durable, long-lasting piece of equipment.
And how long is this meant to last for? Like, what's the kind of estimated lifetime of something like this?
We'll get at least 30 years out of it.
Right.
If not more. It'll start showing its age. And
so then
it
sort of the maintenance costs goes up a little bit and it needs refreshing.
And that's the flip side of the investment, right, is the maintenance.
Yeah, so, and I guess I was just going to say there, so the $750,000, that's the upfront cost, and of course that's paid for when it's built, right?
That's right.
But actually that money is spread out over 30 years. That's the way that budgets for things in property services, where you've got infrastructure that's, meant to last longer, you kind of have to smooth it out over time.
Oh, look, don't test me on accounting stuff. It's really not my strength. But they can smooth out the depreciation of the asset over the life of the asset.
Right.
And if there's loans against that, then they can also look at the interest over that period, that life of the asset, if you like. But maybe it might be helpful if I can talk about what does $750,000 buy?
Yeah, I would like to know that.
Because the toilet itself, so it's a prefabricated building from a company called Permaloo.
Right.
That building costs $350,000.
Right. So, wow. So that's like that's just the Changing Places one, or that whole thing?
The whole lot.
The whole thing. So the three facilities all together. So that whole prefabricated thing.
Yeah.
Wow.
The bits and pieces in it.
So that's including the hoist and the toilets and the dryers and all of those things.
So you go, well, where's the rest of the cost?
Okay.
And that's when you start getting into the cost to prepare the area.
Right.
So where it is at the moment, it's not flat, and we have to level the ground, fill the ground, asphalt it, mark it up, change the parking, change the traffic, so that somebody can drive in with a specialist vehicle and allow 9 metres of parking. They can take their wheelchair or other equipment safely out of that vehicle and then transit from the vehicle up to the bathrooms themselves.
Right.
Obviously, we don't want steps in there.
That makes sense.
Yeah. The toilet itself sits slightly higher than the parking area, so it has to be graded up to there.
Right.
That costs quite a bit. The other complexities with that side is obviously we need to get services.
So when you say services, you're talking about wastewater, drinking water,
power,
and Wi-Fi.
No Wi-Fi.
There's no Wi-Fi.
Although actually we probably will put Wi-Fi in, because I'll probably put some counters on the doors to see how see how well they're being used. There's other tricky things that are not normally thought about when you look at building a toilet. Like the site is what we call a hail site.
What is a hail site?
Hail site. So it's a registered hazardous site because it's been historically used as a railway station.
All right.
So they create
Honestly,
hazardous toxins.
I totally thought you were going for hailstorms. It was because it's
yeah.
kind of out in the open. I thought, maybe it's like it needs extra protection for big hailstones.
So there's nasties in the ground,
Right.
Which is not harmful to anybody using it at the moment. But when we start digging it,
Right.
we need to take some precautions on that, and we need to clean that site while we're at it, if that makes sense. It's also archaeological.
Oh, that's right, because it has been the centre of Dunedin ever since Dunedin
really old.
was settled with Europeans.
So we just want to take care when we're working in the ground there that we're not losing opportunities to find something of historical significance. Yeah. So we get it surveyed, and we have some people supervising the work for us when it's underway. Oh. So that goes into the cost.
And there's been a lot of criticism about the proposed artwork. There's some art going in the toilet or in the changing facility. It was written on the ODT page, and I just want to say to everybody out there who has that criticism is that Hundavasa is what I will say to you, which is an amazing tourist icon because it has, look it up, people, look it up. But I also want to say, does everything have to be as ugly as possible? Does it cost more to make something not as ugly as possible?
The artwork inside the Changing Places facility, it'll be bright and engaging and positive, and not everybody will see it. If you're not a Changing Places member, then you're not going to have to look at it.
Yeah, and what does that...
there is no extra cost for that.
It's not adding to the budget.
No.
Right, so it's kind of like one of those things that people like to kind of, what do they call it, dog whistling or baiting people. It's like, they're spending so much money and it's all, why are we having this artwork there? And not everybody can see it. But actually, it's not adding to the budget.
No, and we're investing in accessibility for a wide range of our community in Dunedin. And ultimately, that's a really positive thing.
Yeah. So I guess those were my questions, was mainly about the cost of it. And I get that can be summed up quite simply in about half of that cost is for the facility itself, and the other half is making the location suitable for all of the things that need to be done to install it there.
It's making it all possible and making it all fit for purpose.
And would that, is that cost, is that the same? You talked a little bit about Moray Place or the Octagon before as a potential location, which you looked at, but the cost of that kind of infrastructure part was
even more.
Was obviously more than twice that if it was going over $1 million in that. So that's really the infrastructure cost of putting it there. Are you thinking of having more stations like this, or is this it for Dunedin?
It's been talked about having more Changing Places bathrooms, and that's not to discount that this facility has a Changing Places bathroom, but it also has two other public toilets at the same spot. But at the moment, we don't have funding for that.
Right.
It's paused, if you like. It's still on council's radar, but I haven't got direction to do that just yet.
And do you have some sort of an idea of how many Dunedin residents would be using a facility like this?
No, I don't, sorry.
Yeah, I'm quite interested to... I don't even know how we'd find that out. Maybe with the card holder.
Jen from Changing Places. She would know.
Yeah. And I sort of ask that a bit hesitantly because... in a way, it's interesting to know how well used a facility like this is. But another part of me thinks, well, actually, if people need this, then they need it. That's the only way they're going to have access to the centre city. If you're coming from Mosgiel and you need to come in for some reason, go shopping, do your Christmas shopping, whatever, that's severely restricted without this. So in a way, I kind of think actually if it's vitally important for a few people, it's actually those people are part of that community, and this
absolutely
allows them to use facilities to entertainment, the movies, the Regent, all of those things that are part of our centre city. The museums, the art galleries.
We're challenged to serve everyone in our community.
It's quite a challenge, isn't it?
But you're right, if you were coming into the city and you couldn't use the bathroom, then all of a sudden you go, oh, I can only be out for an hour. For some people, they can't be out at all because there is no warning of when they need to use the bathroom. Providing a facility for those people might let them come in and enjoy a concert. It might let them come and enjoy movies. It might let them just get on and do their groceries and be part of life in that way.
Or, as you were saying before, accompanying your children.
Yeah.
Because you may not personally need the changing places facility for your own use, but you need access to somewhere like that so that because of your complex needs, you actually then, with a child, you need to be able to change them.
Yeah. And in fairness, I'm not the right person to speak to that.
Right.
You're best to speak to that community directly.
But it is, there is on various social media platforms, there has been quite a lot of feedback from various members of that community saying, hey, look, this is like absolutely really needed, and actually we love that the council has done this, and it's really going to make a huge difference to so many people's lives. And what we'd really like is more.
Yeah, and look, that's a pretty rewarding thing about my job.
Yeah.
I get to help make that happen and enact council's will to support that. And hopefully before we open, we'll have an opportunity for the community to come together and see it and engage with other people that are just curious about what it might look like.
I think it would be great to have sort of an open day, which I feel is a strange thing for a toilet facility.
It is a little bit, and we do need to check whether...
But I sort of also, like, even if it was like a virtual one where you're kind of going through it with a camera maybe and sort of saying, these are the things that are here, this is why this... And
that's
just kind of...
idea.
Yeah,
Alison's done that for the other toilet. She's done a 3D
like the historic one that's down
in the Octagon.
In the Octagon. Yeah. Is there plans to reopen that?
No.
Oh, it would be so cool. I mean, I was at the railway station the other day. We had friends visiting and we went on the Tyree Gorge rail and we went through the station because if you've got friends visiting, you're going on a railway trip, you go through. And the station is amazing. I love the railway station.
Yeah,
I would love to see it. Like, it's so, like, when you're in that main atrium there and there's all the ticket windows and they've all got like a little board and it's so sad. I really want to see like all the ticket windows open. And I mean, there's toilets there and they're all, like, as you say before, they're like...
They do the job.
They do the job and, they're standard toilets. They're standard toilets that aren't super accessible for people who have accessibility needs, but that obviously wasn't top of people's minds back in the 1800s. And it was interesting when I was talking to... I fully encourage everybody to go back and get that episode with Alison Breeze. Ignore the ramble at the start where I was saying wrong things about what a changing place is. But the historical interest in those toilets and talking about the accessibility for people and how it's actually... And it's always sort of been... kind of an equality issue.
Well, the market reserve toilets are a perfect example of what accessibility was at the time. We didn't have access for females' toilets. We only had access for men because those were the folk coming to town.
Unbelievable, eh? Like, just this whole idea that there would be no women's toilets. And I don't know if it's true, but I have heard that there was a rule in Britain that if you were female and pregnant and you were caught short, you could ask a bobby for his hat and he was obliged to give it to you as part of a bylaw. I don't know if it's still in book, and it might even be an urban myth, but it's kind of that weird thing. And that's where I sort of come from with public toilets, because public toilets in whatever form allow people to access various parts of our community. And I'm quite a big proponent, and full disclosure, I was on the West Harbour Community Board last term. I've since stepped down. And I was quite shocked that in the 9-year plan, we've stepped away. Now, of course, this isn't a decision that you make. This is a decision that the councillors make. But they had this sort of matrix for the 10 years, and they kept saying, you can't have this public toilet. Yes, we've agreed that these are important. We need these public toilets, but we've kind of got a structured plan that we're going to build 2 toilets over 10 years for the rest of the 10-year plan. And that was in the previous 10-year plan. And then in this current one, despite it being hugely commented on by the public and all the consultations, it has been dropped. So does that mean that those additional public toilets are no longer on the plan? They're no longer in the future. So that's things like the St Leonard's ones on Te Akamoana, the shared pathway there, Aramoana, Purakanui. I know that some got put in Outram Glen, but they weren't actually on that 10-year matrix.
So back in 2021 when we did the long-term plan, we
the previous one.
We consulted with the community and asked the community, would you like more public toilets? Where would you like more public toilets? And based on that feedback, along with stuff that our staff knew about the state of the toilets across the whole network, we came up with what's loosely referred to as the toilet matrix or the toilet plan.
Right.
So you're right, we had a 10-year plan and identified, according to priority, 2 toilets a year of where we could build new toilets.
Right.
So the team got started on that work and we had some really great progress. So we've got new toilets at Navy Park over in South Dunedin, new toilets on the North Ground, Outram Glen, as you say. Whilst it wasn't part of the original 10-year plan, there was a lot of community advocacy for that, and council asked us to put that work into the plan. And so those new bathrooms are up and running. Then I think it was in the last 9-year plan when council, again, is challenged to prioritise across the whole city.
So this is the 25 to 34 10-year plan, which is technically a 9-year plan, but we'll just call it a 10-year plan anyway.
So they asked us to pause the toilet program. So we finished off what we were doing, which at the time was the Navy Park toilets.
Yeah.
And they left the funding in for the Changing Places facility that we've just talked about.
Right.
But from then onwards, the plan has been paused. So it's not forgotten. We've still got all that information and we've put it to the side. And at a time in the future, council can choose to revisit that.
Right. So that's not you making that decision.
No.
That is coming from the elected councillors. And how much are they obliged? Like, I know there was a lot of comments, like that 21, the previous long-term plan. I know there was something like 1,000 comments on public toilets.
Like 1,200 comments.
It was, and it was like far and away the most commented on thing. And even in the last 10-year plan, the 25 to 34 one, public toilets were still in the top 20 topics that people were, I'm assuming that most of those people asking and going to the trouble of putting in a consultation submission were saying, we need a public toilet here. So it seems like that's quite a groundswell of people with this consultation. And does that consultation come to you and then you draw up I don't even understand how that comes to you. Like, it's not that the councillors read all those submissions and then rewrite the 10-year plan.
Lots of the councillors will read every single submission.
And then do they rewrite the plan, or who writes the actual plan?
The actual physical plan?
Yeah.
It's a team effort. So it's staff's job under direction from council to bring together the outcomes of the consultation.
Right.
And we present it back to council in an objective way so they can consider it in its entirety.
Right.
But as I said, there's many councillors that will read every single comment that comes through.
Right.
And then as council, they deliberate. They go through the long-term plan, they consider its priorities, they make choices to make changes or additions.
So do we know who voted for public toilets and who voted to remove them from that plan?
I don't know that, sorry.
No, we can probably look that up online.
You probably can.
Probably look that up online anyway. Yeah, no, it's interesting though, isn't it? Because it's sort of like, seems like once they're in the long-term plan, they're there, and then actually it gets reviewed every 3 years, and so then they're not there. But I guess the other side of that is that it gets renewed in 3 years so that we could put them there.
Yeah.
Or where does the annual plan fold into that?
So the planning process for council is typically 3-year plan and an annual plan. So you get annual plan, then long-term plan.
Right.
So annual plan is simply a review
Right.
of your long-term plan. So
Right.
when long-term plan comes up, council are asked to consider the entire 10 years,
Right.
and then each of the following annual plans, they review that long-term plan and how it's tracking and if anything needs to change.
Right. So what you're actually doing towards getting those
Yeah.
KPIs.
That's right.
Remind me what KPIs are.
Key performance indicators.
Key performance indicators. That's right. Yeah. I knew what KPIs were. I knew what KPIs are, really. Wow, so crazy. So I guess the next chance for people to have their say is the by-election. So that is coming up on the 12th of May. And, obviously it's a by-election. It's one seat.
You've also got your annual plan.
And you've got annual plan submissions. When's the annual plan submissions?
Oh, I don't know off the top of my head. They won't be far away, though.
They can't be far above. I think they're usually sort of March, April, somewhere around there, aren't they?
End of February, March-ish.
Yeah.
Keep an eye out for them.
What is really useful, though, is that the DCC has a website with all of that information on it. So they're constantly consulting on multiple things. And if you're a long-term listener of the show, you will hear me banging on all the time about just go to the DCC website, type consultations or current consultations into the find button, and you will find all of the specific things, because there'll be consultations on smaller detail things, and then there's bigger consultations on, say, when Parks and Recs did all of West Harbour reserves. And then, of course, there's the annual consultations and the long-term plan, which is a couple of years away now because we've just had one.
And you can always log on and watch the council meetings online.
Which is really useful. And I think that should be compulsory viewing, that you watch at least part of one meeting before you vote. Because
include it in social studies in school.
And social studies
Do they
in
have
school.
social studies anymore?
I don't know. They did when we were at school. But whatever social studies is now, I actually think it's really really informative, because you get to see how people interact with each other and how the councillors that are obviously you can't say anything about the candidates that, are new coming in, but the ones that are there, this is their performance review. Every time they do a council meeting, that's their performance review. And, as a populace, I'm not saying that everyone should listen to every meeting that's ever there, because that's a big time investment. But just tuning in for a couple of them, going to the hearings, go to the public forums, those sort of things, actually just getting involved with it is really an eye-opener of, who does the work, which of those councillors who read absolutely every submission, who read the long-term plan, who prepare for it, which are the ones that are a little bit slacker on the side, who's being really constructive, who's not being so constructive. All of those things, and, you might have a different take on it than myself. And obviously Anna wouldn't comment on that as a DCC employee. So I won't even ask her to comment on that. But I would like to just briefly, we've got a couple of minutes left. I thought let's just touch on some of the other things that Property Services do.
Go for it.
The railway station, that's part of your review. What's the plans for the railway station? Where are we? I know there's been a lot of cleaning happening.
Yeah, the railway station, it's one of my favourites. I'm not allowed to have favourite staff, but I definitely have some favourite buildings, and the railway station's top of the list.
I don't think you're alone there. It is beautiful.
It is. It's stunning, and it's so well loved by our community and engaged with by people that come to the city and by locals alike. We finished the exterior restoration almost. Was it almost 2 years ago? Might have been about 18 months ago. And that work's actually, it's been recognised nationally as of...
Oh, if you won awards.
We've won multiple awards.
Wow.
The latest award we won was the Architects of New Zealand's Heritage Award.
Oh, nice.
So, because it demonstrates the level of quality of the work and the importance of the building and what it's done for our community and for our trades. So,
honestly, when they built that building, they built it with time in mind, and
we built for longevity.
Yeah, real longevity and grandeur. At that time, it was sort of coming at the end of the the middle of the gold rush there. It was built with money from the gold rush, let's say. And at the time, Dunedin was the biggest city in New Zealand. We were it. They were thinking of putting the capital here. They still should, because it's the most amazing place in the world. But
100% agree.
I would love to see the ticket offices open and maybe the bus hub shifted there, and it would be so amazing if the trains and the train station, just like commuter trains from West Harbour and from Mosgiel and from the airport would just be, and that southerner going back Christchurch through to, if you could just go the whole length of the South Island, right from Bluff, Invercargill, all the way up to Picton, and then...
It's been really lovely to see it humming this summer.
Yeah.
And see the trains coming back and the people filling the station. It's neat.
Amazing. And it was so nice going on that railway, the Taieri Gorge railway trip. There was a discount for locals, which I really loved. And it's on the website there. You just click on it and whatever, and you take along a bill or something that's got your name and address on it. I don't know. Anyway, it was... I have a husband who takes care of those sort of things. I'm like the queen. I just wander around. Anyway, no, but it was fantastic, and I'd really like to see, it just sort of seems that it kind of gives kind of like an elegance to the whole thing.
Yeah, it's a real anchor for our city, I think.
Yeah, and it's really nice to see rail kind of coming back to prominence. We did a really interesting interview it might be even a couple of years ago now, with Peter Reid, I think it is, from the Toitū Museum on Dunedin on the Move, and it was really interesting. We were talking about all those early European modes of transport and when they put the railways in, and how that came from Port Chalmers there, and of course Josephine, the engines in Toitū just down the road. And it's amazing and you're talking about trades. It's actually all those local people who are actually doing that, maintaining, that's allowing people to keep
and
those,
growing those skill sets in the heritage city that we are.
Yeah,
it's great for the longevity of our built assets
and
for our people.
Yeah, I love those tiles on the floor in there.
Oh, me too.
Yeah. What else does Property Services DCC own? I'm imagining things like Sammy's. What is happening with Sammy's?
Sammy's also a big area of interest for our public. Next steps for Sammy's really is to get some direction from council on what they'd like us to do with it.
Right.
At the moment, it's in a bit of a holding pattern, but we're hoping to take a report back to council this year and give them some options and ask for direction on what they'd like to do next.
Fortune Theatre,
similar but different. We've already gone to council and they've asked us to prepare it for sale. So they haven't voted strictly to sell it just yet, but they've asked us to do the work behind the scenes to prepare it for sale, and we'll have a report back to council with options on that one, hopefully in the next couple of months.
And then I guess you've got other things like the council buildings.
So we've got the Civic Centre that we look after.
Right.
We have community halls as well, which is another
of course, community halls.
highly used asset that Dunedin City
and quite
owns.
a lot of those are sort of run by the communities, aren't they?
The majority of them are, actually, and we're really lucky in that we've still got quite an engaged community in community halls.
Yeah.
So all bar about 3 are run by community groups.
Right, yeah. And I mean, that's really pivotal places for the community. I think they're what they call third spaces or things. You've got home and work and then a third space. And that's like really important for social networking and community cohesion and modifiable risk factor for dementia.
Okay.
How many different things that you engage with outside the home, not family and friends. So that's one of those modifiable risk factors, which is like keep those social contacts open, and it kind of feeds into another one of those, which is isolation. So that's one of the modifiable risk factors for dementia. So it's all those kind of things that actually benefit our community hugely, but also are really cost effective, because caring for people with dementia is actually really expensive as a community. It's kind of like an indirect, I don't have any numbers on that,
I'll trust you on that one.
Yeah, I don't know why. So the parks and things all go under someone else, right?
That's right. They're under Parks and Recreation.
So what are your big things at the moment that you're working on at Property Services?
My big things.
I mean, the changing rooms facility.
Crikey, sorry, to try and get it jumped up top of my head. The changing places and bathrooms there.
And you've just done the Navy Park. facilities.
We've done the Navy Park facility.
And those North Ground ones. They look nice, actually. I really like the North Ground ones, and I think that's really useful there because so many people are using that North Ground, and it's not just students and people accessing, but, it's also students as well. And
it's students, it's sports grounds users, it's people walking through to the stadium.
Yeah.
So people are going to an event and they're walking from the George Street eateries down that way and round to the stadium.
Yeah.
The other thing that's probably quite topical is our Fitzroy Street housing. So we've got 4 new community housing units being built at the moment.
Oh, right.
Yeah, which are built to universal design standards.
I don't know what that means. What's a universal design
Universal design standards. It's actually pretty neat. It means we're building a house in a way that should someone with a wheelchair wish to use it, we can really easily modify it for them in the future.
Ah, right.
So it's
so you're not having too smaller door frames and just getting things. So it's not actually costing more. It's just when you're making the decision up front, you're saying, okay, well, let's make this door. So if we do need someone with accessibility issues to have this house, then it's actually gonna not cost us more.
The investment to make it universally accessible at the time of build
Yeah.
is minimal compared to trying to change it down the track. So it's just creating things like turning circles.
Oh, wow.
So having it big enough to have your TV, your couch, and move about.
Right. Oh, turning circles inside the house. Of course.
Yeah.
Sorry. I thought you were talking about parking there.
Not parking. Turning circles for a wheelchair.
Wow.
Having benches at a universally accessible height. So not built just for someone like me. I'm quite tall. Not built for someone who's strictly in a wheelchair, but actually somewhere in between that works for everybody.
Oh, it's interesting. Having bathrooms that you can access.
Yeah, that everyone can access.
Wow. That's actually really, really useful. Now, one thing that I'm always thinking about with these things is that part of housing, like there's the cost of the house, but then there's the cost of running the house, like the cost of heating it, the cost of electricity. And it sort of seems to me that people who are in need of social housing, who are accessing that, are likely to be people that don't have a huge amount of disposable cash for paying energy bills and all of those running maintenance things. Can we just put solar panels on all of them? I know why I say this.
one bit better. Right?
Yeah, why I say this is because in Germany, I know that the state put a huge amount of resource into exactly that, having solar panels. And what it did was it meant that there was so much demand because the state is a big entity. And obviously Germany's a bigger state than New Zealand / Dunedin. But it meant that the cost of the supply was so much lower because it was so many people were, like there were so many replicates of it. So the volume, basically, and then it became everyone has solar panels everywhere on their houses. Anyway, carry on.
With our community houses, the first thing we actually think about is how do we reduce the amount of energy you use.
Right.
And then we think about how can we reduce the cost of whatever that energy is.
Right. So you think about passive heating,
we
passive
think
cooling.
About insulation, so you don't need to heat as much. We think about glazing, so we don't lose as much, so we don't have to heat as much.
Yeah.
And we think about the type of heating that we use. Is it a radiant heater or is it a heat pump? So the first most impactful thing that we did was meet the Healthy Home Standards.
Right.
So we met our Healthy Home Standards a year before the legislation, which is about draft stopping, insulation, heat pumps, and one other thing which I can't think of off the top of my head. But the reduction in the amount of energy that our tenants use is massive.
Oh, that's obviously going to then impact their heating bills because heating is one of the big things for your power bill. I guess the other one's hot water.
So whilst we could put solar panels in, if we haven't invested in making it an insulated, tight little unit first, there's no point putting solar panels in to pay for twice the amount of energy that you actually need to be using.
That actually makes way more sense.
Yeah.
And I guess solar panels is one of those things that you can easily retroactively add.
Yes, you can. And then when we build new houses like the Fitzroy one, we do put in a higher level of insulation, and they're really almost passive houses. You really don't need to provide much heat.
That's really great because I mean people think of Dunedin as cold, but I don't know that it is actually that cold. I mean, in the last couple of weeks it has been a wonderful
let's
summer.
not talk about summer.
But it's not actually that cold, but our housing and that passive heating, keeping the warmth that's in there, is actually a big thing. So it's a huge start.
It is when we've got old housing stock.
Yeah, old housing stock, that's what it is. So that's great. Hey, Anna, thank you so much for coming along today. It's honestly, we've touched on a million things that I didn't think we were gonna come on. It's wonderful. And I really look forward to seeing those new facilities up and running. What's our expected time there?
If everything goes to plan, end of April, beginning of May.
Excellent.
So
good luck.
Fingers crossed for me.
Fingers crossed. Thank you very much for coming along.
No problem. Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. Anytime.
You've been listening to the OI podcast, the shout out for the arts, sciences and Mataranga Māori.
You can support this podcast by becoming a member of the OI. Check out the Otago Institute for Arts and Sciences on Facebook or our website.
If you'd like to listen again to this episode or others from the series, look for the OI podcast on OAR FM's website, oar.org.nz.
Brought to you by the Otago Institute for Arts and Sciences, the Otago branch of the Royal Society of New Zealand.
This podcast was produced by OAR FM Dunedin with support from New Zealand On the Air.